Prince William stepped quietly into central London yesterday, carrying out an engagement that, on the surface, may have appeared modest, but in reality spoke volumes about his long-term priorities, his leadership style, and the kind of future king he intends to be. The Prince of Wales visited a hub connected to BBC Children in Needs We Move FWD programme, an initiative focused on empowering young people through movement, confidence and opportunity. There were no grand motorcades, no dramatic photo ops, no headline-grabbing theatrics. Just William, present, engaged, listening and working. And perhaps that is exactly why some corners of the media barely noticed. In an era where royal coverage is increasingly driven by spectacle rather than substance, William's appearance did not fit the mould of what tabloids are conditioned to amplify. There was no scandal, no rivalry, no controversy to inflate. Instead, there was quiet service, something that has become a defining feature of William's public life. Those who expected wall-to-wall coverage because of polling numbers or popularity rankings misunderstood the point entirely. William was not there to be applauded. He was there to contribute. What is striking is not that the press largely ignored the engagement, but that William went ahead with it anyway. That detail matters. It underscores a consistent pattern in his work. He shows up for causes that align with his values, not for headlines. Programs like We Move FWD are about prevention, early intervention, and long-term impact principles that align closely with William's broader focus on mental health, youth, well-being, and social stability. This was also his only public engagement that day, a fact that has been twisted into something negative by some commentators, but which in reality reflects a more modern, focused approach to royal work. William does not overload his schedule with multiple appearances for the sake of optics. He prioritizes depth over volume. One meaningful engagement, done properly, is often more impactful than 5 rushed appearances designed solely to generate photographs. Later that evening, attention shifted to Windsor Castle, where King Charles hosted a major premiere event for his upcoming documentary on environmentalism and organic farming, set to stream on Amazon Prime. The event was undeniably high profile. Attendees included Kate Winslet, Benedict Cumberbatch, Rod Stewart and the Duchess of Edinburgh, among others. It was a celebration not just of a film, but of Charles's decades-long commitment to environmental stewardship work he began long before it was fashionable or politically safe to do so. Almost immediately, a predictable narrative emerged. Why weren't William and Kate there? From certain quarters, the absence was framed as a snub, a family slight, or worse evidence of simmering internal conflict. Some commentary went so far as to suggest that Prince William deliberately avoided the event out of resentment, jealousy, or even unresolved issues related to his brother. These claims were amplified by familiar voices who thrive on palace intrigue, recycling old talking points with little regard for context or accuracy. But when the noise is stripped away, a far more reasonable and far more respectful explanation comes into focus. First, it is important to understand that King Charles and Prince William are not competitors. They are collaborators operating at different stages of the same mission. Charles, now firmly established as monarch, is using his platform to highlight causes he has championed for over 50 years. William, as Prince of Wales, is deliberately carving out his own lane, one focused on the future rather than legacy. William's work increasingly centres on early childhood development, homelessness, mental health, climate innovation, and youth empowerment. These are not random interests. They are strategic priorities aimed at long-term societal resilience. Attending every high-profile event, even ones hosted by his father, is not a requirement for demonstrating loyalty or support. In fact, within the royal family, behind-the-scenes coordination and private support often matter far more than public appearances. It is also worth noting that William and Kate are raising 3 young children who are approaching critical developmental stages. Their decision-making increasingly reflects a balance between public duty and private stability. Choosing not to attend an evening premiere, even one just miles away, does not automatically signal disinterest or disrespect. It signals discernment. Moreover, the idea that William would deliberately undermine or resent his father's success is fundamentally at odds with everything we know about their relationship. If anything, William has consistently spoken with admiration about Charles's foresight, particularly on environmental issues. Many of William's own climate initiatives, including Earthshot, build directly on groundwork laid by his father decades earlier. Some commentators have attempted to resurrect the notion that William is somehow frustrated by the improvement in Charles's health, as though he were eager to accelerate a transition of power. This narrative is not only distasteful, it is deeply implausible. William has never expressed impatience about becoming king. On the contrary, he has repeatedly emphasized the importance of timing, preparation, and continuity. The suggestion that William was fuming because he had to abandon King in waiting messaging ignores a crucial reality. William has never needed to campaign for relevance. His role is secure. His public trust is durable. His focus has always been on readiness, not haste. If anything, Charles's improving health benefits William enormously. It allows him more time to learn, to refine his approach, and to raise his children without the pressure of an abrupt transition. Stability at the top strengthens the institution as a whole, and William understands that better than most. Princess Kate's absence has also been unfairly scrutinized, despite the fact that she has long been intentional about pacing her public appearances. Kate's approach to royal work is rooted in consistency, preparation, and substance. She does not attend events simply to be seen. When she appears, it is because she is fully engaged with the purpose of the occasion. Kate's work in early childhood development alone represents one of the most significant long-term policy contributions made by any modern royal. The framework she has helped establish is already influencing research, public discourse, and funding priorities across the UK. That work does not pause because of a premiere, even a royal one. Importantly, there is no evidence of tension between Kate and King Charles. On the contrary, their relationship has often been described as warm and mutually respectful. Charles has spoken highly of Kate's intellect, dedication, and impact. The idea that her absence was a calculated slight does not withstand even minimal scrutiny. What we are witnessing instead is a deliberate generational shift in how royal duties are carried out. King Charles represents continuity and legacy, bringing decades of advocacy to fruition in his reign. William and Kate represent evolution, modernizing royal engagement, prioritizing long-term outcomes, and redefining visibility. This does not mean one approach diminishes the other. They complement each other. Media narratives that rely on supposed feuds or laziness fail to account for the sheer volume of behind-the-scenes work undertaken by the Prince and Princess of Wales. From private meetings with policymakers and experts to strategic planning sessions for major initiatives, much of their most important work is not designed for immediate public consumption. Calling William and Kate lazy because they do not attend every glittering event reflects a misunderstanding of leadership. Real leadership is not about constant visibility, it is about impact, sustainability and judgment. William's decision to prioritize a youth-focused engagement over a celebrity-filled premiere is not a flaw, it is a statement. King Charles himself understands this dynamic better than anyone. As a prince, he endured decades of criticism for pursuing causes that were ahead of their time. Organic farming, sustainability, and environmental protection were once mocked as eccentric interests. Today, they are recognized as essential. Charles knows what it means to work patiently, often without immediate validation. It is highly unlikely that Charles viewed William's absence as a personal slight. On the contrary, he has spent his entire adult life preparing his eldest son to lead in his own way. A strong monarchy does not require uniformity, it requires coherence. And that coherence is visible when one steps back and looks at the broader picture. William is engaging directly with young people and future generations. Kate is shaping early intervention policy that will influence society for decades. Charles is using his reign to cement environmental progress and bring long-standing advocacy into the mainstream. Each is operating at full capacity within their chosen sphere. The problem arises when commentary attempts to flatten this complexity into simplistic drama. Claims about sibling rivalry, parental resentment, or calculated absences make for clickable headlines, but they do not reflect reality. They also underestimate the intelligence of audiences who can recognize nuance when it is presented honestly. The fact that William's Children in Need engagement did not dominate the front pages says more about media priorities than royal ones. Quiet service rarely trends, but it endures. The young people William met will remember his presence far longer than a red carpet photograph would have lasted in the news cycle. Likewise, King Charles's documentary premiere stands on its own merits. The film will reach a global audience through Amazon Prime, extending his message far beyond the walls of Windsor Castle. Its success does not hinge on who was seated in the front row. In a functioning royal family, support does not always look like public attendance. Sometimes it looks like trust that each member is fulfilling their role with integrity and purpose. William skipping one event does not negate decades of loyalty to his father. Kate missing a premiere does not erase years of dedication to the crown. And Charles's leadership does not depend on performative unity, it rests on substance, conviction and continuity. As the monarchy continues to adapt to a changing world, moments like these are revealing not of conflict, but of confidence. Confidence in roles, in relationships, and in the future. Prince William does not need to prove his popularity. Princess Kate does not need to chase visibility. King Charles does not need to demand deference. Together, they represent a monarchy that is quieter, steadier, and more focused on legacy than spectacle. And in the long run, that may be their greatest strength.